Dungeons & Dragons, or D&D. This fantasy role-playing game was created by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson in 1974. Although widely known throughout America, this game has earned an unfair reputation as a game that is only played by basement-dwelling shut-ins. D&D describes itself as part acting, part storytelling, part wargame, and part dice rolling game. Much of the fun in the game comes from the creativity of the players themselves and what they hope to get out of it. Equipment to start playing. Dungeons & Dragons contains several basic items that are necessary in order to play. Many of the items available to play D&D with may not necessarily be required to play the game with. They can, though, help enhance the experience of playing the game so as detailed and immersive as possible. To start off, you will need the Player's Handbook. The Player's Handbook provides details to the players on how to create characters, choose equipment, and how to engage in combat with different enemies. This book is an excellent resource for players throughout the game because of the information it gives on abilities, skills, spells, or attacks the character can use. Dungeon Master's Guide. The Dungeon Master's Guide gives the Dungeon Master information on guidelines on how to create adventures or challenges for the players, as well as rewards for doing so. The Dungeon Master, often abbreviated as DM, is the game organizer and participant in charge of creating the details and challenges of a given adventure, while maintaining a realistic continuity of events. In effect, the Dungeon Master controls all aspects of the game except for the actions of the player's character and describes to the other players what they see and hear. An example of this is when a party of players are exploring a dungeon. The Dungeon Master might say they are in a dimly lit cave with bones on the floor and hear a roaring sound coming from further inside the cave. This scene sets the scene of the action, and the players have their characters react or prepare accordingly. The Monster Manual Rulebooks. This book contains the monsters that inhabit the dungeons players will explore and contains information on creating monsters, playing monsters as a character, as well as tactics for monsters. This book is an excellent resource to have, but is more necessary for the Dungeon Master to have than players. The character sheets. These character sheets are used to detail your character's race, sex, name, class, level, health, abilities, age, as well as where you come from, and even have a detailed history of your character's life. The Player's Guide is an excellent starting point which can help you make a decision on what race you can choose, as well as equipping your character. There are many different races to choose from, such as humans, elves, and dwarves, as well as gnomes, which may have abilities they focus on. Areas that can be determined by your class and level and race are your ability scores, which concern strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. An example of this would be if a person plays as a wizard. They would benefit from a higher wisdom and intelligence than strength due to their specific area of focus. Your ability scores also can affect what skills you have to use in the game. An ability of this would be if a door needed to be picked, then if your character has the dexterity in that area, then they could pick that lock easier than if a character did not have such a skill. As your player progresses through the game, you may rise in level and gain the ability to learn new skills or abilities to suit your character's experience. This will normally be determined by the Dungeon Master over a course of time or number of dungeons you have explored. After you have determined this, you can read the player's guide to determine what your starting equipment is, as well as any money you may have. You will need a set of dice for each player. One 4-sided die, 4 6-sided dice, 1 8-sided die, 2 10-sided die, 1 12-sided die, and 1 20-sided die. The 20-sided die is the primary dice you will need for the game. All of these dice have specific situations to be used in, and not all are regularly used during the course of play. Lastly, it would help to have scrap paper and/or a computer in order to help keep track of notes and track progress of your character. After making sure you have your equipment ready, you should begin by creating a character using character sheets provided in the book you purchased, or by searching online for them. The internet is an extremely useful tool to help start, manage, and meet fellow players online due to established communities or regional players. It is common for people to play D&D online through instant messaging while being separated by hundreds of miles. Online dice, character sheets, and dungeon maps are all available online if you cannot find them near you. Dungeon masters are also available to play online with for those who are new to the game and do not necessarily want to learn everything at once. Dungeons & Dragons is not meant to be a headache for any of its players, but a game that players will enjoy. While it may just seem to have a large amount of rules, its most important one is to have fun.